Ever since I've been coming to the United States, I have been enamored with Intrepid Powerboats. You see them everywhere, tied outside people's homes, cruising through the Bahamas, towed behind super yachts. This brand is so well known that when people refer to a center console boat and they don't know what brand it is, they'll say, like an Intrepid. And you can't talk about Intrepid without also talking about this man, Ken Clinton. Ken is as much an American success story as Intrepid is itself, taking a gamble by moving to Florida as a teenager and learning the trade of a boat builder from the ground up. And although his title of president requires him to spend time in the boardroom, his real passion is still very much in the building process. He is, after all, Ken the boat builder. And with over 300,000 followers on Instagram, he's clearly not just a successful boat builder, but also a very canny marketeer. Not just on Instagram, but also on LinkedIn. I've been following him for years, and I was so excited at the possibility to come here to Largo in Florida, where their headquarters are, and to meet him. Well, if I thought that Ken would start telling me about all the great construction process that Intrepid have, I was mistaken, although we did get on to that topic eventually, but only after he enthused about some of the incredible accomplishments that they have accomplished over the years that have made this such a standout brand. Intrepid were the first company to think of painting the outboard engines on their boats. This was a result of listening to clients who commented on the fact that a beautiful powerboat could sometimes be spoiled by an ugly outboard. The outboard manufacturers weren't crazy about this to start with, but Ken stuck to his guns, and today colour-coordinated outboards are seen everywhere. Then, when Intrepid started to build larger boats and wanted to put 4 outboards on the back with drive-by-wire controls, they were told it was impossible to have more than 3. So they developed their own control system that the outboard manufacturers approved, so that now it's commonplace to see this configuration. And when the boats became bigger still and Intrepid needed bigger outboards, Ken found the only manufacturer who would work with him, Seven Marine, to make a 557 horsepower outboard. Once again, today, these larger outboards are more easily found on the market because Intrepid established that there is, in fact, a market for them. It was, in fact, by pushing the boundaries, by stretching the limitations of suppliers and of the company itself, that Intrepid became a household name. And as Ken showed me around the production facility, it was not just a masterclass in how to build a quality center console powerboat, but there were also some amazing examples of them thinking outside of the box to find solutions to make this such an extraordinary product. Let me show you. The process of boat building starts here, in the engineering department. Everything that happens on the factory floor is first designed here, and every new product, big or small, needs to be designed here. The new Intrepid Panacea 51 is a great example of this. Apart from all the smaller design features, even the hull design is made in this department. Ken explained that after decades of boat building They have a very good idea of what makes an efficient hull shape, but then a special software is used to simulate the hull performance in different sea states, and even with different tank levels, so that they can be sure that the finished boat will meet expectations. On the factory floor, a 5-axis cutting machine is used to create plugs that are then in turn used to create molds. Interestingly, Ken showed me the area that a new, larger cutting machine will be installed. They even had to dig up the floor to give a reinforced steel foundation so that the machine will be completely stable when it arrives. We saw workers in the yard polishing and finishing these plugs in one area, while in another part of the facility a CNC cutting machine is used to cut sheets of fiberglass to size. Each of these containers holds the fiberglass rolls that are cut to size for specific boats. Elsewhere in the factory, workers were applying fiberglass with resin to small molds. Each piece then has catalyzed resin infused into it under vacuum so that the final piece is both lightweight and extremely robust. In the next shed, the larger molds, such as the hulls, are being laid up. There are a couple of interesting details that I want to show you here. First of all, just take a look at these shapes around me here. These are actually part of the stringer system, part of the reinforcements for the hull. They're really vitally important to the structural integrity of the boat. Ken made an interesting comment to me. He said, "I've built boats. I know how easy it is to make mistakes. I know how easy it is to put these in the wrong position." So you see what they've done? They've created like a jigsaw puzzle with them, and they actually taper the sides as well, so it becomes impossible to put them in the wrong position because they just won't fit. This kind of design eliminates the possibility of making those kind of mistakes. This particularly caught my attention though, because usually center console boat manufacturers like to be able to produce as many boats as they can, as quickly as they can. And to do that, you need to have molds that you can just pop the piece out from, put it on the production line, and away you go. Now, Ken wanted to make Intrepid yachts a little bit more beautiful than that. He wanted to add contours and shapes. The problem when you add a contour or shape is no longer will that piece just pop out of the mold. The contour gets in the way. So what he did was he produced molds like these. These are some old ones, but they're a good example. As you can see, this is a mold which is in 2 pieces or more bolted together. So if you can take the mold apart, that leaves the single piece with the contour. But it adds a different problem. You get these lines. This is where the mold was taken apart, and as you can see, it's left this ugly line here. So Intrepid need to fill that, polish it, buffer it. The problem then though is that if you do that just in this patch, maybe not immediately, but in years to come, that gel coat can start to look duller than the rest. As I say, it may not be immediate, but it will happen. So what they do is the entire piece is resanded down, repolished, buffered, so the whole piece will look uniform for years to come. Does it make sense to do that? Well, maybe not financially, because it takes so long and it's so much more expensive to do it, but it is what sets Intrepid apart from many of the other manufacturers. Another example of this is found in a part of the facility called Stage 1 Construction. Now here, all of the items such as tanks and electrics that go into the hull are added. Here too we find these workers working with fairing boards. This is something I really didn't expect. Each Intrepid is faired and then coloured blue. Now the blue colour serves to show any little imperfection or inconsistency in the smooth lines of the hull, and the Intrepid workforce work tirelessly with these fairing boards to give an incredibly smooth finish to each and every boat that they build. And what about this? Usually interior bulkheads are attached by resin to the hull at the bottom of the bulkhead. This process is called tabbing in, and it pretty much makes the bulkhead at one with the rest of the boat. Many builders will then glue the top of the bulkhead to the sole though, a process that can be done in about 30 minutes. Intrepid though tab in the top as well as the bottom, a job that can take 3 or 4 people 8 hours to do. Again, some would say this is madness, but the result is simply the most robust and seaworthy centre console that you could possibly come across. Once the deck has been fitted to the hull, the boats come here for final fitting out. So for example, stainless steel plates that can get scratched, upholstery that can be damaged, that's all fitted here, so it's the last thing to go on board. But what I really wanted to show you is this, because it highlights the great ingenuity that this shipyard has. This is obviously the side door. Underneath here there's a hatch and a little ladder comes out for access to the sea. The problem with this is that it's such a wide door that if you try to open it with a normal hinge, you can really only open it so far, which then blocks this passageway. So what they did at Intrepid is they invented and designed a completely new hinge, not available on the market anywhere. This hinge allows you to lift the door like this, bring it all the way back, so you have great access to the ocean, and you're not interfering with anybody's access forwards and backwards on the yacht as well. It's genius, and it's really serious heavy-duty hardware too.
Get up on your feet, this is a shakedown. Order up that beat just like it's takeout.
From here, many of the yachts are taken to the east coast of Florida, where they undergo sea trials and delivery to the clients. I was surprised to hear that not only is every boat sea trialed, but also that every single one is pre-sold before being built. Intrepid have a full-time skipper who can carry out the sea trials and also, if necessary, spend time with the customers to teach them and familiarise them with the boat. And if that's not enough, they have the best use for a YouTube channel that I think I have ever seen. Current channel accepted, of course. Their channel contains scores of tutorials covering every aspect of ownership, maintenance, and operation of every one of their models. It is the most advanced, modern, and engaging form of an owner's manual I have ever seen, and well worth taking a look at when you've finished watching this video. I usually end these videos in a picturesque location. Not this one. I wanted to end in the Intrepid classroom. This is where people assemble to learn about building techniques, but also to review every boat that's in construction. Just take a look at this. Each one of these documents represents a boat that's being built, and each one is full of notes of things that could potentially go wrong. This one, for example, there's a note, this boat gets a stern thruster. That's because most of the boats they build don't have a stern thruster, and it shouldn't be forgotten. This one has to have one. Another one says, this boat has no bow thruster. That's because 99% of them do have a bow thruster, and Ken didn't want it going down the production line and they go and put a hole in for the bow thruster when it's not necessary. Ken was so proud to show me. He said, every one of these blue ticks has been done by me. I check off every single boat that's being built to do my best to make sure that the client gets exactly what he's paying for. Is that the best use of the time of the president of a company? I asked Ken that, and he said, hell yeah, I like to sleep at night. And it is that personal attention to detail. It is that desire to push the boundaries of what can be done. It is that desire to build the best quality boat, irrespective of the time that it takes to do it, that sets Intrepid apart as a brand and that has made me dream of owning one of these for such a very long time.